Hello and welcome back. This is the first lecture in part 2 of my lecture series on the foundations of bioethics for graduate level students. In part 1 of this lecture series, we focused on defining ethics and gaining a basic understanding of foundational ethical frameworks that guide ethical decision making. In part 2 of this series, we are going to survey a broad cross-section of ethical theories. In this first lecture of part 2, prior to looking at specific ethical theories, I will lay the groundwork for how we will analyze the theories that we will be learning about in our upcoming lectures. By the end of this lecture, students should be able to explain the purpose for completing a broad survey of ethical theories, describe the categories for classifying ethical theories, state the limitations and concerns of relying on skepticism or subjectivism, and discuss the process for analyzing ethical theories. The primary focus of part 2 of this lecture series is to survey a broad cross-section of ethical theories from a perspective that includes, but is not limited to, a Christian point of view. While this is a Christian course being taught at a Christian university by a Christian professor, I'm not going to limit our discussion of ethical theories to Christian ethics. It is very important for Christians to have a broad understanding of ethics because Christians and non-Christians often use similar means in making and evaluating ethical decisions. And let's face it, we usually don't get very far with non-believers by prefacing an argument with, "because the Bible says." Furthermore, most of us don't work or will not be working at faith-based institutions. So, we need to know how to advance our point of view by offering reasons that make sense to believers and to non-believers alike. Furthermore, it would be impossible for me to cover every ethical theory in this introductory level graduate course. Therefore, I have selected 6 ethical theories that have significant following today, are applicable to bioethical dilemmas, and will also give us a broad array of ethical approaches. In other words, these 6 theories answer the 3 big questions: ultimate reality, human nature, and the role of God in different ways. The theories that we are going to look at in this course include divine command theory, utilitarianism, Kantian ethics, religious natural law, secular natural law, and virtue ethics. As I already mentioned, we're going to be looking at 6 different ethical theories. These 6 theories each fall under one of the 5 categories of classifying ethical theories. Ethical theories are classified based on what is the right thing to do. The first category is authority-based ethical theories. These theories say that the right thing to do is based on what an authority figure said. Often this authority figure is a divine figure, a deity, or a leader. Theological ethical theories say that the right thing to do is based on the consequences or the outcomes of the action. Therefore, as long as the action produces a positive or desirable consequence, it is right. Deontological theories focus on your duty, and that the right thing to do is what your duty or obligation is, and that sometimes the outcome may not always be good, but you should follow and adhere to your obligations. Natural law theories say that the right thing to do is that which is in accord with the ordered nature of the world. In other words, what comes naturally? What is the natural order of the universe, and are what you doing in alignment with that? Finally, virtue-based theories say that what is right is what is going to provide the proper end for humans, what is going to be most virtuous for people. And you may already be starting to see that there's some challenges here. Who is this authority? How did they get appointed? What if something good is an outcome that comes from something with bad intent? How do we know that our duty is what it should be? What are we saying is our duty? And how do we know that what comes naturally is actually what's good? And who determines what the proper ends are for humans? If you've started to ask yourselves these questions, then you are on the right track. If you have not thought about these questions yet, don't worry. I'm going to prompt you with some of these questions throughout the lecture, and as we proceed through this course, you will get more comfortable with analyzing the theories. So, our world is full of different ideas and perspectives, and with ideas and perspectives come choices. In all areas of life, we have to make choices. Some of the choices we will have to make in this course are which ethical theories do we most and least align with, and you can't choose them all. As we will learn about in upcoming lectures, some of the ethical theories we will discuss use opposing criteria to determine what is right and what is wrong. For example, according to Utilitarianism, which is a theological ethical theory, right and wrong are based on outcomes. However, in contrast, according to Kantian Ethics, a deontological theory, right and wrong are based on duty and intent. Thus, according to Kantian Ethics, an action done out of love and promoting safety for another that has a poor outcome is still an ethical action. But according to Utilitarianism, the action should be deemed unethical. So how do we respond when we have so many options of ethical theories? You may be tempted to retreat to skepticism and say it is impossible to know the truth, or say there is no truth out there to be known, or you may retreat to subjectivism and create your own truth. I would caution you against either response, because skepticism and subjectivism, they can be tempting, especially because there is so little moral consensus in society today. Practices that were once universally condemned are now being accepted by a sizable portion of society. But you have to remember that the question of what is right and what is wrong is a very different question than do right and wrong exist. Conflicting views of ethics does not mean there is no ethical truth. It does not mean we need to retreat to skepticism or subjectivism. What it means is that we as humans really do tend to disagree on what moral truth is. We agree there is truth out there. We just disagree on what that truth is. So, if we can agree that right and wrong exist, then we continue to look for theories to guide us, to help us understand right and wrong. And the ethical theories that we are going to discuss in this course have been around a long time. They have stood the test of time, but they're all still theories. None of them have been proven into law, which means that while they each have something substantive to offer and have each proven themselves applicable in some situations, none of these theories have been able to deliver the universal applicability that we seek. An ethical framework that is normative, that is applicable to all people in all situations at all times. And the cold hard truth is that really, we're probably never going to find an ethical theory that provides all the answers for everybody all the time. Finding a normative, truly normative ethical theory kind of feels like looking for a needle in a haystack. But each of the theories we're going to explore do answer some questions well and do provide solid direction for certain types of situations. Each of the theories we discuss in this course will have some nugget of truth contained within them. That nugget of truth is what gives the theory the staying power to still be taught and still be learned as an ethical theory. But containing a nugget of truth does not mean the theory itself is comprehensive, or even that it's the best theory out there and that it should be used in all situations. All ethical theories have gaps. And the gaps that you identify in a theory may be different than the gaps that I would identify in the theory. The gaps are not only based on how well the theory answers questions of right and wrong in specific situations, but how well the foundational beliefs underlying that theory align with your worldview. When a theory has too many gaps and too much disalignment, it's going to fall apart. Therefore, our purpose for analyzing and learning about ethical theories before we tackle ethical dilemmas is to mine each theory for whatever truth it holds. It is highly unlikely that any one theory is going to be a perfect fit for your worldview. You will find some theories that align for you better than others. Some theories may be acceptable to you with minor modifications, and others may be so flawed that you must completely reject the theory. As Phillips Divine once said, all boats leak, but some boats leak more than others, and not all boats sink. So, as we head into ethical theories, I challenge you to find the nugget of truth in the theory. Identify the gaps in the theory and answer for yourself, how big are the leaks in this theory? How good of a foundation does this theory provide for moral decision making? Or should we sink this theory? And we'll pick up next time to begin analyzing ethical theories.